All right, shout out to everybody. Let's jump into the live stream, ladies and gentlemen. Got a couple clips I want us to share early on this Sunday morning. Let's get into it.
Let's cover 10 pro tips for working with the Cursor agent. So I've got Cursor open and my agent on the right.
It might be 600,000. For all these people on Twitter that said, well, if Trump doesn't do the deportations, we'll just get on Twitter and we'll tell them we're not happy. Hey, f***ing idiot. You can tweet all day long on Twitter, and they do. Hey, man, where's our deportations? What the heck is this? Should we chimp out? Dude, the head of J.P. Morgan that just built himself a new skyscraper in New York City, he has a personal audience with Trump. He outranks you, stupid. Larry Fink, who is now the head of the World Economic Forum and who runs the largest asset manager in the world, BlackRock, yeah, he has a personal audience with Trump too. He outranks you, dumbass. He outranks the frogs on Twitter. Sorry to break it to you. They weren't even serious about it in the first place. So here we are in 26, 2 weeks in, and everybody knows last year was a disappointment. We didn't get mass deportations last year. And we know we didn't because they're suppressing the data. They won't even tell us how many they deported because they know it's low. It might be 300,000. It might be 600,000. Either way, that's not enough. If you even want to reverse Biden, you're going to need 2.5 million per year. If you want to have a record-breaking mass deportation, you need 1 million a year. We're barely cracking half that, maybe. Okay, that's where we are from last year. So I told you it would be like this in 2024. I told you it would be like this in 2025. We are 2 weeks into 2026. We are supposed to actually ratchet it up, double those numbers. They told us last year all these excuses. Well, you see, the reason it's not high is because ICE doesn't have the resources. Well, the reason it's not high is because, waiting for the big, beautiful bill money. Well, the reason it's not high is because, do you remember this? This is the game. So it would have made a difference last year, but they ran out the clock. And you dummies let them because you made excuses about it. You let them make excuses about it. You made the excuses for the administration. You negotiated against yourself. Trump did not give you what he promised, and you negotiated with yourself and said, here's why this is okay that I'm drawing the short end of the stick. Right? 2 weeks into the midterm election year, not a good sign that Axios is out there saying the administration is having second thoughts. They literally use that word, Gavin, second thoughts. We need to recalibrate. We need to change our strategy. Yeah, you do. You know what strategy you need to change? You need to deport twice as many people. Recalibrate, yeah, double it. I don't think that's what they're going for, though. How are you going to deport more people if you're being more discriminating? And by that, I mean right now, to Trump's credit, 2/3 of the people that have been arrested don't have a rap sheet. They're just here illegally, and that's it. So it seems that, they're going after criminals and they're rounding up a lot of people in the process. So you could say that they're not discriminating in who they target. They're really arresting anybody that doesn't have papers. God bless. Well, if the problem is the tactics are brutal and, this is causing chaos, how will you cause less chaos while deporting twice as many people?
That's a very, very good point, to be honest. And as well, I am surprised that so many people are surprised that Donald Trump is not delivering, that he is not doing the things what he promises. It turns out that Donald Trump is exactly the same as all those other politicians, maybe even worse. He just promised so many things when he needs us, when he needs our vote. And the moment he is in power, he doesn't care about us anymore. He only cares about his friends, his family, his biggest donors, and he only cares about money, money, money. Donald Trump, excuse me, but this whole administration is one big joke. Did he lower lower the prices? No. Did he build a wall? No. Did we have like mass deportations? No. This whole administration is one big joke. They didn't do anything what they promised. Maybe some things. They almost started new wars. We're almost in a war with Iran now again. Instead of like solving problems, he's only causing more problems. Or am I the only one who thinks like this? But correct me if I'm wrong. But what a joke, right? This administration. Like, come on, man.
How are you going to deport twice as many people by being more discriminating and more targeted and surgical? It ain't going to happen. Not going to happen. We're already being too surgical. We're already being too precise. And, you know, the effect is hardly visible now. It's going to be visible if you double the number. And if it's doubly visible, the shithead activists are going to be doubly motivated. They're going to be out there. So, you know, there's one way to do this, which is 4 feet on the gas pedal. You need to tune out the haters, tune out Wall Street, tune out Silicon Valley, tune out the polls, the media. Get it done. It's going to be ugly. It's going to hurt. But let me tell you something about how politics works. You need to be in the business of scoring points that cannot be unscored. Okay, do you follow me here? When Democrats bring in immigrants, the reason this is so poisonous is because we all know they're never fucking going back.
Maybe go.
They can call it temporary protected status, deferred action on childhood arrivals, implying that, like, well, someday they'll be deported. They're temporarily protected from deportation. It doesn't matter what the program is. Refugee, asylum seeker, you're a seasonal worker. We all know, everyone knows, every non-white person that crosses this border is here forever. They are here forever. They're having kids. The kids are citizens, and anchors away. They're never going home. And the Democrats are counting on that. The non-whites are counting on that. The globalists are counting on that. That nobody is ever going to pick them up and toss them back. And we just have to deal with the new reality. People are here. They're never going back. Get used to it. This is a new America. What are we going to do? Deport this person that's been here for 1 year, 5 years, 20 years. Reagan gave amnesty to 3 million people, and they said it would be the end of it in 1986. Okay? That was 40 years ago. If Trump follows through on mass deportations, you throw these people back into some other country, they're not coming back. There's going to be no airlift. That would be impossible. Like, the Democrats can't put them all on a plane and reverse this. At least they can't do it easily. They could open the borders, you know, they could undo the executive orders, they could do things like that. But, like, they could not easily undo shipping out millions of people. You know, you send those people out, you prevent them from coming back. This is a more solid win. If you physically remove them, you use political power to physically send people, pick them up, put them on a plane, and ship them so far away, it's hard for them to come back. That is a political victory. That is worth it. If you're in office for 4 years and you only deport millions of illegals, good. Oh, we lost the House. Oh, well, people are unhappy. Who cares? Just be a deportation machine. What else matters? Cut the corporate tax rate some more? I mean, what else matters, really? At the end of the day, what's going to have a bigger fiscal, social, political impact on the country than removing over 10 million people that really don't belong here? Like, the Somalian enclave should be, like, eliminated. And by that, I don't mean killed. I mean, like, we should wake up in 4 years and it isn't there. Like, we should wake up in 4 years and it's like, oh, all those people were sent home. We should wake up in 4 years and all those Haitians in Springfield, Ohio aren't there anymore. These people that are eating cats and, like, menacing the local population and crashing trucks into stuff, they just shouldn't be here. And we should be liberated and say, thank God, Springfield, Ohio is liberated. Minneapolis is liberated.
I mean, I get the point Nick is trying to make, and I kind of agree with him. I just want, and excuse me, and even me as a legal migrant, I am saying this, okay, you imagine, but I just want the people who don't, like, respect our country, who don't respect our culture, who don't respect our morals and values, they should be removed. Like seriously, if you come to the United States and you don't like it here, or you're literally like against the American culture, yeah, then I think it's a better idea if you go home. But as well, some people who come, for example, to the United States and they try their best, they work hard, they pay taxes, they love the American culture, they are proud American, they love to wave the American flag. I see nothing bad in those kind of people, and maybe I'm wrong on this, but if we have so many people here who literally, I agree with it, there are a lot of people who just come to the United States. It looks like they don't want to work. It looks like they don't like our country. And yeah, I also sometimes ask myself, what are you doing here then? So I agree with that. Those people, they should be removed because they don't bring any value to our country, maybe a potential threat even. But some people who come to this country and who just like do the best for our country as well, I think they can stay. And I mean, like, I'm not even a real American. I'm a legal migrant, like I said. So who am I to say this? But I hope you get the point. And I'm curious about your opinion on this one. Like, do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? Please share your opinion in the comments. I'm very curious.
Like, and these are examples.
Your talents never cease to amaze me.
On Hallmark Plus, there's always a plus.
And if you get those numbers up to 10 million, how many Haitians are in Minnesota? I think it's 200, 300,000, something like that. How many Haitians are in Springfield? How many Indians, how many Hispanics do you have in some of these enclaves in Texas and California? Just start doing it. But that's not what this administration was about. That's not who paid for it. That's not who paid for the campaign. That is not who is enjoying the spoils of the patronage system that has these cabinet posts and is benefiting from contracts and other things right now. The graft and stealing is like, you'll find out about it way later. You'll find out about it when the Democrats take the House. You'll find out about it in a few years. It's criminal. That's what this administration is about. It's about milking the government dry for more money, for the billionaires, more money for these politically connected people. That's what this is about at this point. And I told you it'd be like this. I said, the reason we need to withhold our vote from Trump is so that he makes a commitment to do these deportations. He needs to hear it. You know, and even as far as like Brooke Rollins is concerned. So Brooke Rollins was with America First Policy Institute. You might remember this in 2024. Remember Project 2025? Remember that? So Project 2025 was a white paper and a staffing database by the Heritage Foundation, that think tank. And so Heritage Foundation, they came up with Project 2025. It's like a 93-page white paper. It said, this is what the second Trump admin is going to do in terms of policy. And they put together a database. These are all the loyalists. These are all the America First personnel. This is who we're going to hire in all these different positions. We're going to fire 50,000 people. We're going to hire 50,000 patriots. And you might remember, and this was like a good plan. I endorsed this. Trump totally cut them out back in June and July of 2024. He disavowed them. He said, I have nothing to do with 2025. I don't know any of them. I want nothing to do with them. They were pushed out in large part by Brooke Rollins because Trump was telling Heritage and Project 2025, they said, you got to get along with AFPI. They said, you think you're writing the white paper for my administration? You think you're going to staff the administration? He said, I already gave that job to Brooke Rollins and AFPI. You got to work with her. And so they were perceived by Trump to be in competition. Trump favored Brooke. They lost the battle in the court. They lost the battle in the court of Donald Trump, in the palace intrigue of Donald Trump. The signs were there. The signs were there. You can't say you didn't know. You can't say you weren't warned. I told you this was going to happen and why. It was very clear in 24 when Ken Griffin and the Wall Street guys, Bill Ackman, when Elon Musk and Tim Mellon, when Silicon Valley and the bankers got involved, that it was going to go down like this. And these guys like Joe Rogan, and I like Joe on some things, and I like Tim Dillon a lot. I think he's hilarious. And I like Theo Vaughn. I think these are great guys. I like these guys a lot. I think they're really good. What I will say about them is that they are not far-right ideologues. I don't say that to insult them. I just don't think that's ideologically where they fall on the spectrum. They're anti-woke. they were against the Democrats because they were pushing like this dead guy and then Kamala. It got so ridiculous. But people maybe made the mistake of thinking we had this giant coalition for right-wing death squads. We didn't. Joe Rogan, and I said this the other night, he's kind of like a left-of-center guy. And so you had to anticipate that all these people that kind of projected onto Trump what they wanted him to be, they weren't going to be there for like what we wanted Trump to be, which is a very right-wing, very strong executive. You got to know you're going to lose that support. You got to push through anyway.
If you're watching this right now, I pray that you don't just scroll past. I hope that when your heart hears that 1 in 3 people on this earth do not have access to clean water, you don't just feel bad. I hope you actually do something about it, because right now, you can make that change. With just $100, you can give 100 people clean water for 5 years. Humanity is on the ground, bringing real solutions, wells, hand pumps, solar power filtration systems to those who need it the most. Donate now to humanity.
But I think this is because almost everyone who voted for Donald Trump is just so disappointed. Even the extremists, even the fanatic MAGA base, they are even disappointed at this day. Because what Donald Trump did, he just didn't listen to his voters. So many people, they voted for Donald Trump because they actually believed that he was like a real guy. He was different than all those other politicians. He would give us America first politics. But he didn't. And this is the reason why almost everyone, because of course, don't get me wrong, you have many different people who voted for Donald Trump. You have the extremists, you have some people who are also, they didn't see like an option voting for Kamala Harris again, so they decided, all right, then I will vote for Donald Trump. But the point I try to make is almost everyone who voted for Donald Trump is disappointed at this point. And seriously, are you not ashamed? Imagine you're Donald Trump yourself, and everyone who voted for you is disappointed in him. And of course, you have a minority who still supports him, but no matter what Donald Trump will do, they will always support him. But so many people, even when I read the comments under my videos from the people who voted for Trump, almost 85% of the people who voted for him, they are disappointed now. And of course, I completely understand why. He is doing almost he never listened to the people. He never gave them what they voted for, what they wanted. And 2, he is always doing completely the opposite. For example, Donald Trump said that he would stop all the foreign wars. Dude almost started a war with Venezuela. Dude almost started a war with Iran now. So I don't think I don't understand that Donald Trump is surprised that people are not voting for him anymore, and that we will probably lose the midterms because of this. He did this himself. He is the only one who can blame himself for all the mistakes he made, because he and his administration didn't listen to his voters. And it's very important as a politician that you are listening to your voters, of course. And if you not do that, yeah, people are disappointed, Donald. So I don't know, but this is just the reason why I feel like so many people, they don't like Donald Trump anymore at this point. He is just a snake, in my opinion.
And so I don't know what's going to happen in 2026. I'll tell you this much. They have brought on 12,000 ICE agents, which is great. They targeted 10,000. They wanted 10,000 new guys. They got 12,000. They're increasing the detention capacity from, I think, 78,000 to 100,000. So if you can detain more people, you can get more people out. That's good. And that money from the big, beautiful bill is about $150 billion, I think. That is supposed to hit DHS, was supposed to hit a few months ago, but we're supposed to be seeing the fruits of that very soon. So the tools are there. Okay, the money is there. The personnel is there. The infrastructure is being built. There are no excuses. Either we deport 1 million people this year, and we'll have a pretty good idea by November, or we know this whole thing was a scam. That's really what it's come to. There's no excuses. What excuse can you make? You appropriated $150 billion for this in June of last year. You hired 12,000 people. You built warehouses to put these people in beds. Okay, you have the money. There's no excuse now. You know what we want. You know it wasn't enough last year. So we need more deportations. I have a hunch that it's going to go down. I have a feeling that Trump is going to get the call. Because look, here's what we're talking about with the midterms. Republicans, at this point, I don't even know what their majority is. I think it's 2 votes. One guy died. Marjorie Greene left. But there's been some shakeups here. They only had a 4-vote majority when they got in. So these people are dropping like flies. You might not even have a majority by November. It is true in almost every election for 100 years that the incumbent party loses the House, or at the minimum, they lose seats in the House. So the ruling party almost never gains seats in the midterms. It almost never happens. And Trump has pretty low approval ratings, pretty low favorability. It's gone very far down. He's losing Gen Z, he's losing Hispanics, he's losing with women. He's hurt a lot. All things being equal, we're going to lose seats. If you lose like 3, there goes the House. You know what happens the next day? Everybody gets impeached. Okay, in the first week of January, next year in 2027, when this House...
That part is very true that Nick is saying. The minute they lose the House, a bunch of people are going to get impeached, without a doubt.
...is sworn in...
You have a program coming out in January that's Time to Rise Summit. I've never been to this one before.
Everybody's getting impeached. Okay, everyone is getting charged. Corey Lewandowski, Kristi Noem, Trump, Hegseth, all these guys are getting subpoenaed, and they're getting subpoenaed the shit out of them. And you might remember the Democrats shut down the government for 45 days, longest government shutdown in history. That's when they had a minority in the Senate. They're going to have that same minority in the Senate. They'll be able to prevent Republicans from beating a filibuster. Plus, they're going to have a majority in the House. They're going to shut everything down. Okay, so everything you thought we were going to do, everything you hoped Trump would accomplish later, they're going to shut it down until 2028. And then that's curtains. That's it. These are the stakes. So knowing that, Republicans, by hook or by crook, they want to keep the House. So you better believe Trump is going to get blasted with calls from Republicans in Congress from now until November. We got to do something about ICE. We're getting killed out here. You're going to lose your majority. We're all going down. They're going to make those calls. Silicon Valley, Wall Street are going to make those calls, and public pressure is going to mount from guys like Joe Rogan and the military guy who's calling him a pedo protector. The public pressure is going to mount, and it's going to come down to, does Trump have the balls and the fortitude to stick it out? I don't think he does. I hope I'm wrong, but like I told you, we've seen this movie before. This is exactly how it played out in the first term. Trump bent the knee, and you know what followed after that? So if we go back to the first term, Trump caved on family separation, talked about a DACA amnesty before the midterm elections. You know what happened in 2019, 6 months after the midterms? We had the highest number of border crossings in the month of May and June in 20 years. That's how it happened the first term, okay? So Trump gets into office, and nobody even attempts to cross the border illegally because they're so afraid of the enforcement. Midterms come around, wall-to-wall coverage of ICE atrocities, Border Patrol atrocities, calls up Stephen Miller. Stephen, we got to do something about this. They reverse the policy. The illegals know it's a free-for-all, it's open season. And within 6 months from the Northern Triangle, you get 150,000 illegal border crossings, apprehensions in the month of May. You get more in June. 20-year highs in the first term. And he didn't build the wall. He didn't build the wall, and that is what allowed Biden to open it right back up and let in 10 million people. You get Trump in, he doesn't deport those 10 million people. He still doesn't build the fucking wall. What happens in 2028? A Democrat comes in, they open up the floodgates for illegals.
And believe me, this will happen again. Believe me,
Yeah, that's exactly how it's going to happen again. That's exactly, and you know, I hate it because Nick is making such a good point here, and it's like but I always tell you guys, we have to be fair, and we're fair on this channel. We watch both sides, like him, love him, or hate him. The way that he's walking us down this path, and he's explaining how it went down. This is exactly how it happened, and it's going to continue if someone doesn't do something about it, right? Trump's numbers aren't there as far as deportations. They just are not, dude. He's not even touching Obama. And it's like nobody's really talking about it, but Nick is openly saying like he's not doing anything about it. And this is why the favorability rating and everything is so low at this point, because people can see like nothing's being done about it. Sure, wars are happening and we're taking things, and you know we're the hottest country right now, but there are people who voted for him that are still upset about things that aren't happening.
Exactly the whole playbook, what Nick just explained now, will happen again after this administration. We for sure, like, I hope I'm wrong, but we will have a Democratic president. I hope I'm wrong on this one, but I feel like the next president is going to be a Democrat, and then we will have exactly the same playbook as now. And this is your Trump administration, your America First administration. Bro, Donald Trump barely did anything. Didn't release the Epstein files, didn't build a wall, didn't lower the prices, everything is still crazy expensive. Dude only cares about foreign countries, foreign conflicts, didn't do anything for the average Americans, and then he's surprised why so many average Americans, they are super mad at this point, they are so disappointed, because he never listened to them, he became a billionaire himself with his stupid meme coins, he only enriched himself, his families, and all his friends, and he didn't care about us. And this is the reason why so many people, they're just so mad at this point. And again, yeah, this will happen again, exactly this will happen again. What a joke, right? And it also turns out that just like when you win the elections, you only have 2 years. That's all. You only have 2 years until the midterms, and then it's over already. Because I don't have to explain it again, but what Nick just said here is so true. You just have 2 years. In the midterms, like Donald Trump is gonna like calm down already. He's gonna soft. He's not gonna do anything what he promised again. I mean, like he didn't even do it before. So now after the midterms, he cannot even do anything anymore. But what a joke, right? What a joke. Why can we not just have like some politicians in our country who actually like listen to us, who try to help the average Americans, who try to make this country great again, instead of only like talking the whole time? I wish we had some people who would actually listen and do something.
Hey, Congresswoman Ilhan Omar here. I'm going to ask you to chip in to support our campaign. But before
for our people, for our country, but it turns out that this is almost impossible. It's ridiculous.
Congratulations, you win the prize. 10 million more. So we will be in 2032, 16 years into the Trump movement, and we're 20 million more illegals in the hole. We started with 20 or 30 million. Now we're at like, I don't even know. There's more illegals than citizens at that point. This is why we say, you know, that's why they call me an accelerationist, or anti-Trumper, whatever. It's like, look, man, don't get me wrong. When I hear these people and they say, oh, you know, Trump is like, he's like America's Hitler. No one is saying that like it's a good thing. That's fake. No one ever says that at all. But like when these people say Trump is like our Caesar, he's like the guy, he's our leader, trust the plan. He's like, I get it. I wish that was the case, but it's like, look, man, we have seen this for 10 years. We know what we're getting. This is the devil you know. Okay, we know at this point who Trump is and what he's about. We know his faults and his strengths. We know the people that he's involved with. Okay, we know his behavior. We know all these things about him. And like, I don't think we're going to get any surprises. The man's 80 years old. You know? The man's literally turning 80 years old. Do you think he's become a new man? You know? Punish Trump. I will be your vengeance. It didn't happen. And we got to come to terms with that. So that's why I'm telling people, it's like, look, the Democrats are going to activate. We got to activate and say, look, we're not turning out unless we get mass deportations. You want to have a shot at keeping the House in the midterms? You better deliver. That's why I tell people it can't only go in one direction, where moderates, independents, and liberals are saying, we're not going to vote if you keep doing it. We, as the far right, need to say, we won't vote if you don't do it. Because we need Republicans worried about that. We need Republicans worried about if we look too soft, we can forget about it because then our base won't show up. That's the psychology we need to create. But if you say, I will negotiate with myself, I will tolerate anything, I am a sucker, I am a mark, I will literally never stand up for myself, I will vote Republican no matter what, well, then you're begging to be taken advantage of. That's what it is. So anyway, that's coming out of the administration. Not a good sign. Not a good sign. 2 weeks into 2026, and they're saying, we're having some second thoughts. Everybody's saying, okay, you got your $150 billion from that big corporate tax giveaway. Are you going to deport 6 million people yet? And they say, yeah, about that, I think we need to recalibrate our strategy. We're still in favor of mass deportations. It's just, Mr. Trump doesn't like the way it looks. And you know what that tells us, by the way? If they're saying to Axios that Trump only said he doesn't like how it looks, you know what that means? It's coming from the top. It means that Trump is telling them, I don't like this. Okay, so he's having second. It's not, don't blame it on Corey Lewandowski. Don't blame it on Tom Homan. Trump is having second thoughts. Now we got a problem. So I hope they follow through here. Because if they don't, tell me who is going to do it. If Trump, in his second term, after being overthrown and shot in the face and charged, and wins the popular vote because of this fluke, Biden's dying, Kamala comes in, Joe Rogan, Elon Musk, Tim Mellon, they're airdropping helicopter money into his coffers. Everybody comes together to defeat woke. The Israel lobby's all in on it. It's Trump. If he can't deport millions of people, who is going to do it? And when? And under what circumstances? You think Vance is going to do it?
Hi, my name is Matt, and today I'm here to tell you all about Replit in just 60 seconds. Replit is the fastest way to go from idea to application. It's the most...
What would make you think Vance could even try? We don't even know fucking anything about him. Say what you want about Trump. He galvanized.
All right, there's no secret that Nick does not want J.D. Vance to be the next president. Everybody knows that. That's not a secret. He says that, I don't know if I want to count Clavicular as somebody who doesn't want him either, but recently Sneeko, Clavicular, and Nick were all on a live stream together, and all three of those guys have went on record to say that they would actually vote for Gavin Newsome. Mainly because J.D. Vance, looks fat, doesn't have a white wife, an American European wife. It's just stupid stuff like that. So there's no secret that Nick doesn't want to see J.D. Vance win. So
a coalition that won a presidential election. I hope they follow through here. Because if they don't, tell me who is going to do it. If Trump, in his second term, after being overthrown and shot in the face and charged, and wins the popular vote because of this fluke, Biden's dying, Kamala comes in, Joe Rogan, Elon Musk, Tim Mellon, they're airdropping helicopter money into his coffers. Everybody comes together to defeat woke. The Israel lobby's all in on it. It's Trump. If he can't deport millions of people, who is going to do it? And when? And under what circumstances? You think Vance is going to do it? What would make you think Vance could even try? We don't even know fucking anything about him. Say what you want about Trump. He galvanized a coalition that won a presidential election legit from the outside. He changed everything single-handedly. In 2016, he's capable of things. He's capable of these incredible things. He's been the president. And we saw him in exile, still 4 feet on the gas pedal. We don't even know who Vance is. He's never even had a real job. He wrote a fucking book about his meemaw, and you think he's going to be able to deliver what Trump could not? Why do you think that is?
Bro, JD Plant, aka JD Vance, this guy, if he's gonna run our country, then we're cooked, then it's over. Like, excuse me, but I used to say this, I'd rather make my dog the next president of the United States than JD Plant. Come on. Exactly, Nick is spot on with this one. We barely know anything about JD Vance. He changed his name probably 3 times. This guy is like, no one even know who he really is. no one voted for him, and this guy is gonna be our next president. How did this guy even become our vice president? He is just like the puppet of Donald Trump. It's such a weird. Also, when you hear him speak, again, this is my opinion. I will speak for myself. But JD Plant, no, dude. I have no idea who you are. Almost no one voted for you. You are not even like acting. You are just cosplaying like you are America First. I highly doubt that you are actually America First. No, thank you, brother. I don't want to see you as my next president. But again, this is my opinion. I'm very curious about your opinion. Do you agree with Nick on this one? Do you think the Trump administration is just one big joke at this point? They're not listening. They're not doing what they promised us. I'm very curious. Please share your opinion in the comments. It's very important to say. I read all comments. I even try to reply to some of your comments. So I'm very curious. As well, if you like this video, please hit the like button. If you really like these kind of videos, consider subscribing. I would really appreciate it. And then you'll make sure you don't miss anything. Thank you guys for everything. I wish you all the best. Have a wonderful day. And I'll see you in the next one.
All right, shout out to Purge. I got another clip by Purge that he did earlier today. I think that one was JD. There's another one he did where he's talking about war with Iran being guaranteed, and I think Liberty Vote covered that one. So let's take a look at that.
Here are the 5 coldest things an ICE agent has ever done. Share this to trigger your liberal friend.
As I get closer, look at this sad f***ing loser. He plays proud to be an American. Barack Obama retired. My grandpa served in World War II and got shot down. Is in a BLW camp for 18 months. He f***ing runs. What a f***ing.
You should be ashamed of yourself, man.
He is.
I love my job, thank you. You love your job? I get paid for this. Really?
I get paid for this.
I like to go to school for that. I went to high school. I made you guys are ruining this country. You know that, right? Everyone's already going to... Oh, there we go. Okay. Can we see some bad boy guys? Hey guys, already ruined it. No number, no ID, no name. This is democratic process. We're going to get it. Can we see some badger? Hey man, can we see some badger before we go? Can we see some badge numbers? Hey, sorry. There's no front plate.
Oh, you are a bad, evil person. You need to be expunged. You need to go to another country. You need to know what it looks like. Instead, you're pulling over innocent people, not asking for any ID and just hauling them off. You all should be ashamed. How do you go home to children, to friends, to family? Do you tell them what you do for a living? That you arrest people without cause? That you just pick them up, put them in a truck? Is that what you do? Are you proud of yourself for doing this? Are you absolutely proud? Are you proud of this? Are you proud? You are an idiot. You do not deserve to walk the face of this earth.
Okay, so she's clearly very upset, so upset that she feels like they shouldn't even live. I think that's a little overzealous. But nonetheless, I wanted to shout out Benny Johnson for that. The top 5 coldest moments of ICE agents, which I thought that pun intended was crazy. All right, guys, let's move to that next clip.
You have nothing else like that?
Here's to the go-getters, whether they're in the gym or anywhere else.
Look on your phone
The National Guard remained on standby ahead of planned protests today. They weren't deployed, but Guard vehicles could be seen around the Twin Cities metro, prepared for potential unrest. Thanks for joining us. Counter-protesters clashed with anti-Muslim and pro-ICE demonstrators in the streets of Minneapolis today. A small group of protesters was met with throngs of counter-protesters and cameras in downtown Minneapolis. Clashes between the two groups turned violent at times. Our Adam Duxter and Frankie McLister were there.
High tensions in an impediment by Minneapolis police. A large crowd against ICE faced those praising the federal agency outside of the City Hall and Federal Courthouse Plaza. Video here shows heated moments where activist Jake Lang appeared at the scene.
Look at them! Look at them!
A very small group essentially surrounded on the walls of City Hall by members of the media and counter-protesters who have been repeating calls to go home.
And it's important to stand out here and show Minneapolis, show Minnesota, show the world that we don't welcome people like this in our city.
But for another,
These people they don't care who it is. As long as I'm not their side.
as time passed, Lang left City Hall, where the crowd followed, running and chanting down Minneapolis blocks, and halting outside Hotel Indigo, where the well-known activist appeared to run inside.
He comes to our protest and he tries to invoke violence.
Minneapolis Police Department later asking the crowd outside the hotel to clear, repeating the warning time after time. MPD leaving the scene, and the crowd then circled back to the City Hall, where it subsided.
This latest assault at Minneapolis with the ICE agents, it's completely insane.
A Minneapolis man saying he disagrees with Operation Metro Surge, but another from Forest Lake held the opposite viewpoint.
Here in America is illegal. If you're not legal, get work
In Minneapolis, Frankie McLister, WCCO News.
Lang posted online that he was stabbed at today's event. Minneapolis police say they did not receive a report of any injuries. MPD says in general, crowds were responsive to their directives this afternoon.
Let's cover 10 pro tips for working with the Cursor agent. So I've got Cursor open and my agent on the right. And
so let it be done. But it.
Trump gets elected. It's not even.
All right, so this is Nick again, but this is by Liberty Vote instead of Purge Viral. Liberty Vote's another channel favorite who we react to on the channel often, so let's take a listen.
Even on anybody's radar. Nobody was thinking in 2024 we're going to war with Iran. If you were paying attention, you knew that's where it was headed. But that's not what he campaigned on. And mark my words, we are going back there this year. This is not over. Okay, Trump did not pull us back from the brink. It's the opposite. He's deploying more soldiers to the brink so that we can go over the brink into a war.
Now, despite recent media reports that Trump has backed off the option of additional strikes against Iran, Nick Fuentes just guaranteed that the United States will renew the war against Iran in 2026. And what he gets into in this clip is interesting because he addresses the propaganda leading us there and U.S. military movements, which the corporate media conveniently is leaving out of the equation entirely. So let's check it out. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel.
This week it looked like we were going to war with Iran. All over again. And I talked about this in great detail on Tuesday. And I brought everybody up to speed. You can begin the story around December 29th, I think it was, when Netanyahu came to Mar-a-Lago for his 5th visit with Trump in 2025, 5th and final visit for the year. And Netanyahu came to the United States again. Why? Because he wants us to bomb Iran again. He wants us to support them in bombing Hezbollah again. He wants the United States to give him the green light to go back to war in Gaza. He wants permission to escalate the war in the Middle East on every single front. And Trump didn't commit to a timeline or necessarily any of these particular options, but he did say if Iran rebuilds their nukes, if they rebuild their missiles, you can bomb them. Sure enough, a week later, we get these giant protests in Iran, armed by the CIA and Mossad.
By the way, in addition to that, Nick is right about that, but he also, over kind of the New Year period, I think it was December 28 and 29, stood with Netanyahu at the White House and said, if they kill protesters, we will launch additional strikes too. And then you have, these supposedly organic protests rising up in Iran, to the maximum degree of U.S. and CIA propaganda to spark a war, saying, hey, that's the impetus for war, when they just keep moving the goalpost. As Nick said, it was the nuclear weapons program, which Tulsi Gabbard denied the existence of prior to the U.S. strikes against Iran last summer. Then if they rebuild ballistic missiles that all countries have, we'll do it or kill protesters. Well, what'd you get? You got protests.
Backed by the CIA and Mossad, embellished in the media, assisted by Elon Musk's Starlink. And it looks like the Iranian government might be on the ropes. That's not really true, but they created this perception. And so this week, it looks like we're staring down the barrel of another war with Iran. And Trump has now redirected one of our carrier strike groups to the Middle East, presumably to escalate against Iran. And it seemed just a couple of days ago that we were on the precipice of dropping bombs on them. There were reports that there was major Israeli Air Force activity over Syria, fighter jets over Iraq. U.S. bases were being evacuated. It seems that a second strike on Iran was called off at literally the last minute earlier this week. And a lot of people say, and I said this on Twitter tonight, a lot of people say, well, what a relief we didn't bomb Iran again. Phew, that was close. We almost went to war with Iran, but Trump saved us because he's the president of peace, because he's the president of no new wars.
Yeah, president of no new wars in a golden age, right? When we did launch a war against Iran, first saying, hey, the government going, this is just Israel doing it. Then, I guess we're going to join it. And, let's evacuate Tehran. Trump sent out that evacuation order and then said if Iran doesn't want to make itself great again, maybe regime change is the right idea. He true social that, hangs out with Lindsey Graham this entire last week, with the Make Iran Great Again hat, of course, siding with Lindsey Graham and the neocons on this. And we're just supposed to believe that there's nothing wrong with this either, that the U.S. gets re-involved there, does have CIA involvement, it does seem Mossad involvement. Even if you take Mike Pompeo for his word, there is involvement from Mossad. Take a look at this. This is what he posted on January 2nd. Happy New Year to every Iranian in the streets, also to every Mossad agent walking beside them. Implicating Mossad in these demonstrations, in these protests, letting the mask drop and telling you what's really at play here. Now, if I came up with this, or Nick came up with this and said this, and he did say that here, that's just right. An anti-Semitic conspiracy theory, right? But even Mike Pompeo, the supervillain that tried to assassinate Julian Assange, he just admits it straight up.
My dear brothers and sisters, a child wakes up not from hunger, not from the cold, but from thirst.
People are saying, so this is a good thing. I guess we're not going back to war. But then you wake up today and you read in the press, this is in the Wall Street Journal, this is in the Times of Israel, this is everywhere. The reason that Trump did not follow through on the strike in Iran this week is because when the military told him about our options to strike in Iran, they could not guarantee that it would topple the Iranian government. So what does that imply? It implies that Trump fully intended earlier this week to pursue regime change in Iran. That's what that tells us. If he called off the strike at the last minute because the military told them, wait a second, this is not going to bring down the Iranian regime, and Trump said, oh, okay, never mind. What does that tell you? Their goal, which they are now admitting, is to topple the Iranian government with U.S. military force.
Exactly right, and it's been the long-term goal of the Likudniks, of the neocons that wanted this as part of the clean break, that Iran was going to be the coup de grace, the last domino to fall, the seventh country in the list of 7 countries in that memo that Wesley Clark saw in the weeks after 9/11. They don't even make a secret about it. All the propaganda is directed that way. We know that AIPAC, the Israel lobby, and Miriam Adelson wants this, so let it be done. But it does take moving U.S. military assets into the region too, which seems to be happening right now while everyone else is off to something else. Talking about, things related to Venezuela or inflation, and those topics are really important, right? But at the same time, this thing isn't over, and a lot of us predicted this back then. Me and Dave Schmidt and Clint Russell and some others said, hey, despite all the adulation about how the United States set back the Iranian nuclear program, decades, it's not going to be enough for the Zionists and the Likudniks that still want this regime change at all costs, no matter how much that U.S. citizens have to suffer for it, through inflation and debt, and making new enemies overseas a possible military operation that isn't in the cards in U.S. interests whatsoever, all against a regime that just happens to be Israel's arch nemesis. Can't touch the United States, no threat to the United States. No matter, though, Israel First Administration's here to bail Israel out at every opportunity. Not even bail them out, just do their bidding on everything, from genocide to war to excuse-making, on and on again.
So what happened last year to, well, this is only about the nuclear program, remember? Last June, they said, we don't want regime change. We don't want a war with Iran. We don't want offensive activity. We don't want to get involved. They said, we just want to disable their nuclear centrifuges. So we're going to drop some bombs, and then that's it, and then we're going to leave. Remember? And everybody said that was genius. Everybody celebrated. But of course, it's never that simple, ever. Not in Iraq, not in Syria, not here. Netanyahu comes back begging for a war. Trump apparently was moments away, and maybe this is obviously all planted by the administration. They are creating a perception, and we could talk about what the agenda is there. But I think it is fair to say their agenda here is to push over this government, to topple this government with potentially multiple waves of airstrikes against government facilities, against their internal security service, against their missile launch platforms. Who knows? Who knows how much and what are the targets? We know, however, that the end game is to push over the Iranian government. So what they said last year was a lie. It wasn't about the nukes. It wasn't limited. And now we are pursuing a top-down regime change with U.S. military force because Netanyahu wants it.
That's exactly right. I totally agree with him on this. They just shifted the goalpost. If you remember, if you watched my videos from back last summer, they're still on my channel, you can see me saying that I'm actually kind of happy about the propaganda coming out of Washington. I'll say that for once, because they promoted this as a severe setback for the Iranians. Their nuclear weapons program is set back decades, so we don't have to worry about regime change. But they still get around that for the sake of the Israel lobby by just shifting the goalpost to other absurd narratives that are supposedly casus belli for renewing strikes against Iran. Rebuilding ballistic missiles that every other country has. That's going to be the impetus for war, he said at the White House with Netanyahu. If they kill protesters, that's going to be the impetus. Doesn't matter the threat or lack thereof, and yeah, it's the lack thereof to the United States, we're still going to strike. So they just keep moving the war propaganda to meet the current scenario, all leading to the regime change. Everything they're doing is indicating that they are striking this country. It's just a matter of time, and the shifting of a new carrier battle group into the region really seems to indicate that. They did the same thing with Venezuela, where it seems like the commitment level of those resources into those regions pretty much guarantees it. Otherwise, it's just foolhardy to do it. Not that the military is any, alien to wasting money. They do that to absurd degrees in the United States, but they do also want to, fulfill the aims of their movements.
Now, they called off the strike this week. What are they doing in the meantime? They're moving a carrier strike group into the region. You know what that is? That's an aircraft carrier with a mini air force and a small army backed up with a number of other naval vessels. And the reason they're bringing this force package to the Middle East, bring the aircraft, bring the personnel, bring the radar. What they are preparing for is the ability to launch multiple waves of strikes if necessary, to anticipate, detect, and counter an Iranian counterattack. That is why they're deploying a carrier strike group. So they saw this week, hey, wait a second. The Iranian government crushed the protests. So I don't know how much military action is really going to help the protesters if that's over. So one, we missed the window. Two, all our ships are in the Caribbean right now, intervening in Venezuela, so we don't have enough manpower, we don't have enough force if it's necessary to control the escalation ladder in Iran.
This is the empire-building problem, right? Look at how far-stretched military resources are against countries that aren't a threat to the United States, pose no threat to the United States, haven't struck or invaded the United States and won't. It's all due to regional hegemonic, conquest by the empire builders in Washington. Doesn't matter what their aims are or what threat they pose. They serve as an entity to be exploited by the United States, and it's not to our benefit. It's only to the benefit of the richly connected, military-industrial complex and banks.
What's the solution? Bring more force. And presumably conduct more subterfuge and subversion inside Iran to lay the groundwork for another wave of protests. What did Trump do on Monday? 25% secondary sanctions, which he's calling a tariff, on any country that does business with Iran. So the protest started because the currency collapsed and one of their major state-sponsored banks collapsed. That's what precipitated it. Presumably then a bunch of armed breakaway groups, Kurds, Baloch types, liberals, other assorted groups took to the streets, organized on social media, beamed down from Starlink. So they're going to hurt the economy further, organize the resistance more, maybe push more weapons in, arm the Kurds from Iraq, send them over the border to effectively invade Iran, while they wait for the carrier strike group to get in position. And what's amazing is that this is just now like a foregone conclusion, that we're going to war in Iran. How insane is that? Trump gets elected, it's not even on anybody's radar. Nobody was thinking in 2024, we're going to war with Iran. If you're paying attention, you knew that's where it was headed. But that's not what he campaigned on. He was in Michigan, pandering to the Muslim population there, saying, I'll end the war in the Middle East.
Yeah, that's exactly right. The dissidents, the anti-war dissidents, those who have opposed the neocons for decades knew that this was in the cards, that they wanted the Iranian regime to fall. And it didn't help our trepidations thinking about that prospect, knowing how closely Trump was tied to the Israel lobby, is tied to AIPAC and Miriam Adelson. But at the same time, of course, Trump's campaign rhetoric always violated his sheer ambitions and the ambitions of the deep state and those he surrounded himself with, like Pompeo, like John Bolton, like Marco Rubio, like Mike Waltz, like Mike Huckabee, who have always wanted these military misadventures that never pay off for us, and are only for the benefit of genocidal regimes in the Middle East, particularly Israel. That's why it's happening. And I hate to say that all signs are pointing in the direction Nick is saying. I do think there will be renewed strikes. I said it back last summer, and it does seem to be evident based upon what they're doing. I don't think this is over again. I'm probably going to say that again, that this isn't over. The Trumpians are always like, oh no, this is brilliant 4D chess, it's over. It's never over. it's always escalated to a stupid degree at our expense.
In June of 2025, there was great trepidation about getting involved in Iran until it happened and it was quick and it was over. Now it's 2026, second year. Oh, this is just what we have now. This is just what it is. We're at war with Iran. We're actively pursuing regime change. We're going to intervene. And the U.S. media fully on board.
That's all we have.
Wall Street Journal, Washington Post, New York Times. You read any of these papers any day over the past 2 weeks, and it is nonstop, wall-to-wall atrocity propaganda.
That is so true. Trump can do anything else, say anything else, and the corporate media will attack him on almost anything else. But you go to war, you're going to get the support of the corporate media, the corporate lobbies, and all of the well-connected Israel lobby shills in the United States. That's just how it works. You will become the enemy of the state the moment you try to end a war, but promote a war. Even your supposed political adversaries will side with you if it's in the interests of these three groups. That's just a fact.
About the protests in Iran. Sob stories, and this one got murdered, and this one got crushed, and these are the bloodiest protests, and maybe 1 million people died. And you could see it is affecting public opinion. The public is saying, oh, well, if there is a democratic uprising in Iran, we should help them out.
Exactly, and hey, if it was 20,000, which it wasn't, 20,000 protesters killed, that's what Barry Weiss's CBS News reported. That's impetus to go to a regime change war, but they'll just make excuses, any excuse under the sun, for the Palestinians dying 5 times that rate at the hands of the IDF and the Israelis in Gaza. Oh, those are just isolated figures. We can't believe them. They're all Hamas's fault. Israel's just defending itself. You know, Hamas deserves this. We can keep the Palestinians in subjugation forever because of it. They make any excuse under the sun for those deaths, but for the 20,000 supposedly, which it's not, it's definitely not that high. It's definitely way less, according to other reports, with named sources rather than unnamed sources. That's enough to justify the toppling of a regime. I'm sorry. That is hypocritical, it's absurd, and it's completely in line with Zionist lies.
It's insane. And it's insane how much people are drinking the Kool-Aid. People that you never would have thought 2 years ago would be supporting U.S. intervention to bring about regime change in Iran are now saying, you know what, if the protesters are out there, let's give them a hand. Let's bring it in. Why do we want to take the side of the Ayatollah and the mullahs and these Islamists? Well, if we could have a Persian monarchy, maybe that's a good thing. It's like, do you hear yourself? What do you think we've been doing for the past 25 years? If only it were ever that simple. Yeah, let's topple Bashar al-Assad. All these towelheads have Facebook. Let's just topple Assad and Gaddafi and Mubarak and everybody while we're at it. What could possibly go wrong? I don't know. How about 10 million Muslim refugees in Europe? How about a bunch of failed states cooking up terrorism? I mean, where do you want to start?
Yeah, I'm with Nick on that 100%. I just wish Nick would apply that same logic as it exists in the Venezuela theater, too. Regime-changing Maduro, with no indication that's going to go swimmingly. If you have this Chavinista regime just complying with the United States in violation with the propaganda of that regime, it's possibly going to cause inner turmoil, conflict, civil war. Might not go as planned. You might have, domestic killing sprees there and then justifying additional U.S. intervention there. We have the same problems in Venezuela as you might be setting up in Iran. Just wanted to be consistent about that because I don't think Nick is consistent about that.
If you're looking to get better at speaking or become a professional speaker, you have come to the right place. I'm going to tell you 3 mistakes that I made when I started my speaking career 10 years ago now. I'm now...
Golden Age! Glorious II! Save Israel! The King of Israel! It's getting freaky, man. I don't like it. So anyway, I just had to say something a little something about that tonight. I know it's already in the rearview mirror. You know, like 3 days ago, everybody's ready to go to war with Iran. Trump says, never mind. I guess Iran shut it down. Everybody's on to the next thing. Totally insane. And mark my words, I said it on Tuesday, we are going back there this year. This is not over. Okay, Trump did not pull us back from the brink. It's the opposite. He's deploying more soldiers to the brink so that we can go over the brink into a war. That much is clear. They are preparing the ground force that will do this. They're coordinating, I imagine, inside the country with who is going to take over. Those are some of the concerns. You know, the people that called off the strike, this time it wasn't Tucker and the populists. You know who called off the strike? It was Turkey, the Saudis, Qatar, and Israel. It was these countries that lobbied Washington and said, you can't use our airspace, we don't think it's a good idea, there's not a lot of regional support, because they said we're just not ready for it yet. But allow us to get ready.
Yeah, seems to be the case, and that part of it is completely ignored by the media, that they are moving these assets into the region for a strike, that the Israel lobby still wants it. It's not a matter of that, we suddenly don't want the regime change. They've always wanted the regime change. Benjamin Netanyahu has made a political career of not only preventing the establishment of a Palestinian state, through funding Hamas, by the way, but also trying to topple the Iranian regime. It's not that they've changed their mind on it, they just want more setup time, and that's what they're getting right now.
Allow us to prepare for Iran to potentially be targeting U.S. assets everywhere in the region, prepare to intercept all these ballistic missiles, have a force package to launch waves of airstrikes, coordinate with these factions inside Iran that are going to be the ground force and probably arm them, maybe escalate against Hezbollah first, take them on in Lebanon with the major escalation, disarm Hamas, and then you go into Iran, but that seems to be the plan.
Yeah, I hate to say it does seem to be the plan, and frankly it scares me. Those of us that have followed Middle East foreign policy for a long time knew that the Zionists and neocons, I repeat myself, almost the full Venn diagram circle when it comes to those two groups, have supported this one for a long time, with prominent ones talking about it for a long time, sometimes openly, with people talking about it that are in positions of power saying that Mossad's part of these demonstrations, like Pompeo, like I said. I hope it doesn't happen, but every indication is that I agree with Nick. I do think the United States is going to strike Iran again this year, in 2026. And I think there's a few reasons behind it happening now. It is on the basis of this war propaganda on many of these protests that were astroturfed, supported by CIA, Mossad, and U.S. propaganda engines in the form of the corporate media supporting it and using that as a justification to get Americans on board with this, because Americans aren't on board with this. Americans don't support all these wars of choice without the propaganda. They know they rely on the propaganda to do it. That's a way to shift mentalities a little bit in that direction. But so many Americans have just had enough of this. When you have your own problems when it comes to the inflation crisis and all the debt and political polarization, a culture war that isn't satiated by stuff like this, that isn't satiated by stuff like paying attention to the needs of Israel over your own country after that they just, forced us to pay for a genocide. But you're an anti-Semite if you dare to question that, right? And these protests, it's so crazy how they are being promoted as atrocity porn. There's a lot of indications that they're not organic, and as my friend Clint Russell pointed out last night in our conversation, a lot of them were actually pro-government counter-protests to the protesters as well. That part not being reported whatsoever. Max Blumenthal has talked about that a lot too. And the fact that a lot of these protests don't center upon a desire to overthrow the Ayatollah. A lot of them are on the basis of political protests that seem to be disconnected from that kind of more radical end. Because of an inflation crisis, they have a central bank too that's destroyed their currency, as the Federal Reserve is doing in the United States. Imagine that. Basically, all states do that for the most part. And they had a severe drought, which they believe was being mismanaged because the economy of Iran is like 60% centrally controlled. You have a lot of problems with asset allocation when committees of stooges are determining those sorts of things rather than voluntary choice and interaction. That's what you're going to get. But here's the thing about the protest that I just think is so ironic, that this group of protests, and it's hard to nail down the exact number, was something like maybe 40 to 60,000 at one point. Some were isolated pockets, some were bigger groups, etc. That amount of protesters, think about that, like 40 to 60,000 potentially. I don't know the exact number, but it was somewhere more in the vicinity of that than this next group I'm going to talk about. If you remember, I don't know, a month or 2 months ago, we had the No Kings protest in the United States. It was a Democrat, kind of liberal establishment, opposition to Trump. It didn't have any central points or anything like that. It was just a large-scale, kind of left-wing oriented protest against Trump. I think it was AstroTurf too. I don't think it was that genuine. I'm not saying there were no genuine protesters in those groups, but it wasn't as organic and legit populist as, say, Occupy Wall Street or the Tea Party, which the federal government subverted by injecting the culture war in the 2010s. I've talked about that a lot on this show. But think of that. No Kings. They produced something like 5 to 6 million protesters in the streets. But our regime says, hey, these 40 to 60,000 protesters in Iran, that's justification that they want to overthrow their government. And they should get help to overthrow their government. But the 5 to 6 million in the streets in the United States, that's not an indication that these people want to overthrow their government. They're just idiot lunatics, and don't get me wrong, I probably wouldn't have a lot of the same political prescriptions as a lot of them, but they have the right to freaking protest, they have the right to speak their mind. And our government isn't saying, oh, it's evidence they want to overthrow their government. I guess China should help them do that in the United States. Of course. Because everything related to this is total propaganda on the part of the Israel lobby, on the part of the banks and the military-industrial complex that want to overthrow Iran as part of the clean break strategy, destabilize that country just like Lebanon, just like Syria, so that they can expand West Bank settlements and consummate the greater Israel project, to expand the borders of Israel beyond what they are now. That's why Smotrich still wants Israeli settlements in Gaza. He's not alone. He's talking about that openly. That's why they want to renew the genocide in Gaza. They've already violated the ceasefire. So that's what I think we're going to get. Hate to say I think Nick's right on this one. I think we are going to get war versus Iran, but I do want to know what you guys think. Let me know in the comments down below. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel. Also consider subscribing and joining as a YouTube member of this channel. You can do that by clicking the join button down below. That'll help support the channel. And in addition to that, for your good deed, I'll give you access to all of my videos before they go live to the general public on YouTube. You'll be able to view those members-only videos right away if you do that. And again, I appreciate it. Also, if you want a free copy of my first book, Compact of the Republic, click the link down below. That'll shoot you to a website, plug in your email, I'll send you a free copy of that book, free of charge, just because I appreciate you. And look, I have a few demands. They're simple, they're basic, I won't budge from them. No more war, no more debt, no more inflation, and no more empire. Peace out, guys. Catch you in the next one.
Rent a furnished private room with utilities and Wi-Fi for less than $150 a week with pad split.
Here's a talking points memo, a new approach to control illegal immigration. So yesterday I just scorched 10 states who are in rebellion against the federal government. So if you are a premium or concierge member on BillO'Reilly.com, you can watch our show and get a transcript anytime you want. All right? And that is a very big convenience if you are a seeker of knowledge. So we went over that this is a rebellion, and my column is up on BillO'Reilly.com that tells you which states they are and what they're doing. And it's ironic because it happened 157 years ago, I believe it was, Andrew Jackson, same thing in South Carolina, and Jackson took care of South Carolina. You can't be in rebellion against the federal government. Well, anyway, I am now going to put forth to you a I think a pretty good solution, not a 100% solution, but something that would work. So we have a 1952 immigration law. 1952 has not been upgraded because both parties don't want to upgrade it. They both use it for political advantage. There's no drive to have a new immigration bill or laws, set of new laws, none. So 1952, and President Truman vetoed that bill, but his veto was overridden by Congress. The reason that Truman vetoed it was he didn't believe the bill had enough non-white opportunities for people to come to the United States. It was almost all white people that were allowed in here. That's why Truman vetoed it. Anyway, as everybody knows, Joe Biden let everybody in. No restraints. And according to the Migration Policy Institute, pretty good. 14 million foreign nationals crashed in here under Biden. 14 million. Now, there's a lower number put forth by Pew Research, 11 million. But it's still a colossal amount of people. Out of those 14, 11, whatever number you want to take, 10 to 15% are criminals, people who will hurt you. And that is a colossal number, too. That you add the foreign criminals to the domestic criminals, and you have a wave. We've seen it. All right. Now, Biden didn't care. The Democratic Party doesn't care. In fact, the radical end of the Democratic Party continues to want an open border. That's what you're seeing in Minnesota. These people screaming about ICE and impeding ICE. They don't want any restrictions. And they don't want to hunt down the criminals. That's who they are. It's hard to believe, but that's who they are. And you got to accept it. Okay? So, you can't surrender to it. And if I was on a Hammy radio program today, you might want to listen to that. I said if I were the president, I'd have the FBI interviewing mayors and governors who will not enforce immigration law. By interviewing, I mean, you go in, the feds go in, sit them down, and you say, why are you not doing X? Why are you not doing Y? When you know that federal law trumps your state law. The federal law, you know that in the Constitution. That's what I've been doing now. Because if you're going to rebel against the United States and you are leading a rebellion, you're in trouble. So that has to be built. But that's not the solution. Here's the solution. So by executive order, again, Congress would never vote. You never get it into the Senate. Okay? By executive order, President Trump signs a proclamation that says if you are in this country without proper documentation, you need to go to your post office where there will be a Homeland Security form that you have to fill out. And the form will be your name, where you live, are you employed, how many children you have, where did you come from, on and on and on. You fill it out. You put it back into the prepaid envelope, and you send it to Washington, to Homeland Security, which then enters your questionnaire into a database. Now, you have 90 days to do it. That's fair. 3 months to do it. If you don't do it, then you are subject to immediate detention and deportation. That's it. You're going. And I don't think there's a court of law that will block that. Because that's national security. So then you separate the people and the thugs, the criminals, are never going to answer the questionnaire, ever. So you put them in a category, and then you have the so-called law-abiding migrants in another category, and then you adjudicate them. So it goes into immigration courts. You'd have to hire a lot more judges to do it, but they look at it and they say, no, there are some people who claim asylum. There are some people that are married to American citizens. On and on, what's your story? And then you get, the federal government sends you a conclusion. You have to appear at this point, or you're okay for a year, whatever it may be. Okay? And you have to carry that card wherever you go. So if ICE stops you, you produce the card, I'm cooperating, then ICE lets you go. Unless you commit a crime, unless they're hunting you for a crime, of course. So that way you get an orderly basis of deportation. You get to know who's here. And again, the bad guys aren't going to cooperate. Make it a lot easier to get them out. You don't have that card. You can't produce it. Okay, it's like a license. Where's your ID? You got to produce it. Part of your ID. So what's the downside to that? The liberals will say privacy. Privacy? What are you talking about? You're not supposed to be here. It's a privilege to be here. You have to go through a process to be here. Privacy? I don't believe the courts, the state courts in the rebellion places, of course. But federal courts are going to go, this makes sense. And this allows the federal government to step away and use a less heavy hand, which is good for the nation. All right, I can't do better than that. I've been thinking about this for a long time. And again, Bill at BillO'Reilly.com, Bill at BillO'Reilly.com. I'd like to know whether you support or oppose that. And that's the memo. Thank you for watching.
It wasn't until I married a German partner that I learned developed countries have moved on from.
You know, one thing I think that we don't do enough, and I showed you a video on this yesterday, but I do think that it's important to keep showing that one of the most powerful things you can do when someone disagrees with you, or you know you are on the right side of an issue, is to meet with the person who disagrees with you and to talk to them. Talk about why you believe what you believe. This is kind of not really talked a lot about, but James Talarico went on Jubilee, and he talked to some undecided voters about a wide range of issues. He also went on the New York Times podcast with Ezra Klein. I think this guy is a good communicator, and one thing about him that I did not know previously is that he is from a district. They've redrawn it now, it's bluer, but he is from a district that voted for Trump twice and voted for Abbott. So there are Abbott, Talarico voters. And I will tell you this, if we have any shot of winning a state like Texas, a very red state that voted for Trump, plus 13 in the previous election, we need folks who know how to talk to people who might disagree with them. Or might be like, I don't know about that guy. I don't know about that guy with the D next to his name. So if you don't know, James Talarico is a very long wind-up, but if you don't know, James Talarico is running for U.S. Senate in Texas. There's a primary, and he is an option. And I think he's a good one. Before we Jubilee, I actually want to watch this from the Ezra Klein podcast. Here is Talarico talking about the religious right.
For the past 50 years in this country, the religious right, a political movement, convinced a lot of Christians in America that the two most important issues were abortion and homosexuality. Two issues that aren't really discussed in Scripture. Abortion is never mentioned. Consensual same-sex relationships are never mentioned. And so it's remarkable to me that you have an entire political movement using Christianity to prioritize two issues that Jesus never talked about. And so I'm not saying they're not important. I actually think both of those issues are very important. But to focus on those two things instead of feeding the hungry and healing the sick and welcoming the stranger, three things we're told to do ad nauseum in Scripture, to me is just mind-blowing.
How do you understand that? Because I'm Jewish, but when I read the New Testament,
that's good shit. Put it in my veins. How you counter this disgusting version of Christianity is by reminding people what Christianity actually is. Now again, is this the message that would work in New York City? No. Or that we're in LA? No. Miami, maybe. Definitely in Texas.
I always come away a little bit amazed that politicized Christianity is so worried about gender, sexuality, and so unconcerned with greed.
You're preaching to the choir. Absolutely. Concern for the poor, concern for the oppressed is everywhere. I mean, economic justice is mentioned 3,000 times in our scriptures, both the New Testament and the Hebrew scriptures. And this is such a core part of our tradition. And it's nowhere to be seen in Christian nationalism or on the religious right. And the Bible is all over the place when it comes to marriage. Paul tells us not to get married. And you see certainly many different kinds of marriages throughout Scripture. And the same with gender. Paul says that in Christ there is neither male nor female, which is pretty woke for the first century.
That is woke. I did not know that.
And so, again, it's because religion is being used to control people and accumulate power and wealth for those at the top. This is the tale as old as time, and it is not unique to Christianity. Powerful people will always see religion as a tool to make more money and be able to keep people in line.
Wow. That is a powerful message, and I gotta say, it goes very, very nicely into the next clip. James Talarico talks to this Texas voter who's undecided about welfare queens.
Just so you guys know, even though Keith is a channel favorite over here, like, we're reacting to James, and I'm not as mesmerized by James as Keith is. You could tell he's absolutely mesmerized by him. I personally think he kind of has a a wolf in sheep's clothing thing type of going on. He uses scripture, with his politics, but his scripture is usually very, misquoted, and he's usually not using it in the right type of context. So for people who are unfamiliar with the Bible, they seem blown away by him. But for those of us that know and spend time with scripture, we kind of understand what's going on here.
And I love who he says is the real welfare queen in this country. You might know the answer.
Republicans in D.C. are trying to raise premiums on some Americans. That will end up raising premiums on all of us. Right now, they're cutting food assistance for hungry kids and working parents. That's going to end up raising grocery prices for all of us. And so they may think that they're just attacking some Americans, but in fact they're attacking all Americans.
I want to focus on the religious aspect.
Sure.
I agree. Have a very Christian background.
Yeah.
But if you look at major religions, including Christianity, it is not a focus on a political system. It's a focus on individual responsibility. And when the political system takes away the individual responsibility and says, don't worry, the government's going to take care of you, you are absolutely going to catch people who need that. And it's a hand up, and it helps them. But you're also going to take away from the individual responsibility, which is needed to get out of those situations. So when you talk about food stamps and healthcare and helping, how do you balance that? Because I haven't heard a good democratic argument of, great, let's help people, but how are you... They're nasty people. They're welfare queens. They're nasty people who take advantage.
Why did the editor go to this person when they said welfare queen?
They're nasty people who take advantage of the system and take away from those who earned it, take away from those who need it. So how are you going to take that into account? How are you going to make sure we cover that risk as well?
The biggest welfare queens in this country are the giant corporations that don't pay a penny in federal taxes. The biggest welfare queens are the CEOs who get a tax deduction for flying on a private jet. It's not hungry kids. It's not working parents who work multiple jobs to provide for their families. I agree with you that we need individual responsibility. And I don't want to create a culture of dependency. I want a hand up and not a handout. I believe that you don't give a man a fish, you teach a man to fish. But if you're going to take your friend out on a boat for the day to teach him how to fish, you want to make sure he had breakfast that morning. You want to make sure he's not sick, because that allows him to learn how to fish. Again, I was a public school teacher, so I saw how when kids showed up hungry, they couldn't learn that day. Even my brightest students, even my hardest working students, couldn't succeed, couldn't pull themselves up by their bootstraps when they didn't have boots. That's what I'm trying to fix in this country.
That is a powerful message. And that's something that I don't think Democrats do enough of. We don't turn the talking points around on them. We are always in defense mode. We're always in defense mode. James Talarico operates from a yes and. Yes, I want to make sure that we're not giving handouts, but we're giving a hand up. Is that what he said? I think he said that. And the biggest welfare queens in this country are the CEOs, billionaires and corporations, which is actually true. There are so many tax breaks we give these people. Elon Musk wouldn't exist if he did not have our money funneling into his companies. And we just saw this week that Elon Musk's AI best friend Brock is signing a contract with the Pentagon. SpaceX is funded by our money. I'm not worried about people trying to get by. Most people, 99.9% of people want to, first off, be self-sustaining. Secondly, are good people and aren't trying to rip anyone off. You know how many people, when I worked in television, where when a show would end, so many people would be like, I'm not gonna apply for unemployment insurance because I don't feel right. Like, there's so many people like that. Well, by the way, if you do get unemployed, you pay into that, take the money. But there's so many people who aren't trying to rip anyone off, and thank God these programs do exist because they really do help people be able to get a leg up. Poverty is one of the hardest things to get out of. It's a trap. It's next to impossible to climb out of it. And I think the government's role should not be obviously to make people dependent, but to give them a ladder to get out of a hole. That's one thing we could do. All right, let's watch this.
Unless it means providing health care to the sick, or funding food assistance for the hungry, or raising the minimum wage for the poor. It seems like they want to base our laws on the Bible until they read the words of Jesus. Welcome the stranger, liberate the oppressed, put away your sword, sell all your possessions, and give the money to the poor. I'm not exactly sure a Christian nation is really what these people want. I believe the separation of church and state is sacred, but I do think if these people are going to call for a Christian nation, they need to reach for all of it. I fought the bill to require the Ten Commandments posted in every classroom, and I've often wondered, instead of posting the Ten Commandments in every classroom, why don't they post money is the root of all evil in every boardroom? Why don't they post do not judge in every courtroom? Why don't they post turn the other cheek in the halls of the Pentagon? Or it's easier for a camel to pass the eye of a needle than for a rich man to get into the kingdom of heaven.
Like, James, you're already dead. He's like, Bruce. What about this? What about this in the Bible?
On the floor of the New York Stock Exchange. This is the inconsistency I'm trying to call out, because they're using my tradition. They're speaking for me. And so I think I have a special moral responsibility to combat Christian nationalism wherever I see it. These politicians...
Wow. That was radical. I want to watch one more. Do you want to watch one more? All right. Immigration.
Make America stronger and richer.
If you're watching this right now, I hope, I pray that you don't just scroll past. I hope that when your heart hears...
Hi, Terrence. Nice to meet you.
I'm kind of tough. I'm not sorry.
Where we disagree, I think, is this idea that immigrants as a whole are a drain on this country. That's where I strongly disagree. Because,
again, Texas, right? Like that. This is a big topic.
These immigrants are doing jobs that native-born Americans won't do. And here, I'll give you an example.
I disagree. How do you know that?
I'll give you an example. Let me give you an example.
Who's your ex?
I talked to an avocado farmer in California who's been running this farm for 20 years. He said he has never had a native-born American apply to work for one of his jobs.
And so my question. Okay. How many black people are in California?
In Los Angeles or
in California in total?
I don't know. I don't know. It's
under 7% now. He doesn't have enough people that need jobs in California.
It's not even about these jobs.
Toward Texas.
It's not even that
Texas, more black people stay in Texas. More foundational white Americans stay in Texas.
Let's just talk holistically. There are 7 million jobs.
Holistically doesn't work for everyone.
But I'm talking globally about the economy. There are 7 million jobs that are unfilled in this country. We have more jobs than we do workers in America right now. And as you know, children and our elders, paving our highways. These are jobs that are difficult, and the research shows that undocumented immigrants are really just competing against other recent immigrants. They're not competing with native-born Americans who, in many cases, whether it's that avocado, whether it's other industries across the country, native-born Americans will not sign up to mow our lawns. And so if we go after these immigrants, we're not just hurting them and their families and their ability to live the American dream, we're hurting the entire economy, we're hurting ourselves. And then I'll go one step further. Those immigrants go on oftentimes to create jobs. Half of all Fortune 500 CEOs are immigrants.
I forgot about that. That is, first off, true. Second, we don't say that enough. Also, we're all, I mean, this is so oversaid, but we're all immigrants. Very few of us were born here. Okay, like our ancestors. Obviously, I was born here, and so were you. But many of us got here some way. Not many of us are native to this country, and it's just so. I mean, it's just a tale as old as time. Anyways, this guy, he's got the juice, in my opinion. He's got the juice. He's got that X factor. He's got something special. It's a shame it's happening in Texas because even if he makes it past the primary, it's really hard to win. But I think someone like this could be a shot in the arm to Democrats, not only in that state, but across the country. I mean, it is really just showing a different way to do politics. That's what I think is so exciting about this, is to be a Democrat. And I do love that Democrats can come in all different shades of blue. Okay. All right. Okay. I'm a little energized. Hope you are too.
Porn, smoking, doom scrolling. That's how high IQ men self-sabotage. High IQ men don't.
Cash Patel and Dan.
All right, so we're gonna watch Candace Owens talking to Myron Gaines about pretty much grading Donald Trump's second term, how disastrous it's been, what they like, what they don't like. Let's take a listen.
We're saying we're going to do this against the FBI. Now they look petrified. They look petrified, actually. There's nothing here, actually, to see about these Epstein files. What are you talking about? If you would take a test and they would automatically flunk you if you didn't put your name on the paper. Oh, yeah. Epstein, automatic flunk if you don't put your name on the paper. Right? So, I'm a mom now, so this was the most important thing to me was figuring out where the pedophiles are in our society.
Candace Owens just graded Donald Trump's second-term performance, and let's just say she's not exactly giving him straight A's. In this interview with Myron Gaines, she gets into some of the issues she has with Trump, and she raised yet another one later in this clip I want to discuss too, so let's see what she has to say, and what's Trump's grade according to Candace Owens right now. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel.
What do you think so far about this switching politics? What do you think so far about this administration with Trump?
Good, bad, ugly. Sad. Honestly, the first thing that I would say is that it makes me sad because obviously I spent a lot of time helping Trump get elected, trying to help Trump get elected, and Trump is... Yeah, he's a part of my political story, right? A part of my political awakening, if you want to call it that. And it feels to me like when he said... What Epstein files, talking about the Epstein files. It was just like we were so close, we did everything we could, and we were supposed to be fighting a swamp, and then what happened? The Loch Ness Monster, which is Israel, rose up and swallowed our hero whole. So it makes me sad, and I think we all can very clearly see what has happened on the basis of who's now supporting him. The literal Never Trump movement is now supporting Trump and telling us that we're radicals, the people who initially supported Trump. So there's been a complete flip, and they're trying to use this mechanism of psychology to convince us, oh, we just got here, but we noticed this rot, which is the original MAGA movement. It's completely ridiculous. Their tactics aren't working, but I think it also indicates to us that there is something very scary and sinister that is in DC, right? That turns good men, like petrifies good men that go in maybe with the best of intentions, and then they see something else. Like what happens to these people? We don't know. We're day in and day out. Cash Patel and Dan were saying we're going to do this against the FBI. Now they look petrified. They look petrified. Actually, there's nothing here actually to see about these Epstein files. What are you talking about? You kind of made your show off of what we need to happen with the Epstein files.
Yeah, she's exactly right about that. And to be clear, she has the perfect assessment of how the neocons have co-opted Donald Trump, stole whatever semblance of non-intervention he still had in it. And frankly, I didn't think he had that much because he exacerbated wars in both Syria and Yemen in his first term and ramped up the bombing in Afghanistan before drawing up plans to in the future withdraw from there. I commend him for that. He did have generals lying to him about it. But he has been co-opted by the neocons, by the Never-Trumpers, who wrote big articles about how they could never support Donald Trump, like Ben Shapiro, who's out there singing his praises, Lindsey Graham, who sided with the Democrats on Russiagate, and he's still in Trump's good graces somehow. But then it's public enemy number one, like Marjorie Taylor Greene and Thomas Massey that helped force the release of these Epstein files, as redacted as they are, that turned against Trump on Israel, Epstein, and spending. For those three issues, you become public enemy number one in Washington. And I think she's exactly right. That was such a watershed moment with a lot of people. When Trump's in that press conference, he says the absolute worst thing you could hear if your presidency was, around a mantra of drain the swamp and America first, and I'll give you transparency to uproot, the rot at the heart of our political system when you say, I can't believe you're still talking about Epstein. That did it for a lot of people. Not me. I never supported Trump, but I had particularly low expectations, and he still managed to do worse than my already ridiculously low expectations.
So it's sad.
So if you were to rate him, because people have asked me this question, so now I can ask someone else. What grade would you give him right now at this point, based on, obviously the Epstein files, I agree with you, it's a huge debacle. It's going to probably be a huge negative in his legacy at the end of the day. If you had to grade his presidency so far, we're 11 months in roughly, what would you say?
So I would say I'm biased. So if you're asking me to grade, you know how you would have those teachers where if you would take a test and they would automatically flunk you if you didn't put your name on the paper? Oh, yeah. The Epstein thing for me is like automatic flunk if you don't put your name on the paper. Right? So like I'm a mom now, so this was the most important thing to me was figuring out where the pedophiles are in our society. And
that was your number one voting.
This for me, like becoming a mother, because you have to remember, Epstein, I did a partial series, a mini-series on what we discovered about him. He just got pulled through the ranks, right? Bankrupted Americans, same thing with the Maxwell family, bankrupted people in England, and was allowed to do this. He had absolutely no background. He was given access to children. He had an office on Harvard campus, despite only having a high school diploma, which I can't even verify his high school diploma, if I'm being honest with you. And this was going to show us everything. He had access to Hollywood. He was working with Weinstein. He had some notorious fight with Harvey Weinstein right before Harvey went down. So now I'm kind of going back in my mind and thinking that's a question I should probably ask Harvey Weinstein, is what they were fighting about. And he had access to models. I mean, this man was just handed the keys to Les Wexner's empire, which even how that empire started has got a shady story with the guy who said that Les Wexner was a literal devil. He was the guy who controlled Victoria's Secret. He said, this man is evil. And then suddenly that guy jumps off the Golden Gate Bridge and decides to give his company to Les Wexner. That doesn't really make sense. So we had this rare opportunity to really understand how the Matrix was put together, in my view. And Trump took us to this line and then balked. And I'm not sure why he did. Okay, I don't.
Yeah, I think she's saying it straight up there. That's a great assessment of the situation. It's true that a lot of Trump's voters, a lot of his support base, a lot of the diehard MAGA activists didn't vote for Trump with Epstein transparency at the centerpiece of their interests. But in my estimation, the debacle that is the Epstein cover-up, and that's what it is, they lied through their teeth. We know that categorically because the FBI had memos showing that they entertained the notion that he was sex trafficking beyond himself, that there were as many as 10 co-conspirators, despite the lies of Kash Patel under oath in a congressional testimony session. We know that. But here's the thing about the Epstein scandal. Even if you prefer Trump for different reasons, whether it was the perception that he would end the Ukraine war, that he would stop the spending, we'd have Doge to come in and kill $2 trillion in government spending was never going to happen. That was a total scam because Republicans don't support slashing government, despite all the rhetoric. Maybe it was one of those other things, right? But at the centerpiece of Trump was this idea that you're going to uproot the corruption that you see in the corrupt political system at the top with well-connected people like Epstein and his associates. And when you can't even divulge the truth about a child sex trafficking operation and the known ironclad proven ties that we now know Epstein had to Israel, it gets just people off that train. They're off the bandwagon. And it's easy to see why. And Trump has no one else but himself to blame for that, for elevating these people like Kash Patel and Dan Bongino to these positions, making livings off talking about Epstein and transparency, and the fact that Biden was concealing this, and he was too. But Trump, he didn't promise anything else than that. Trump did. He didn't deliver. Instead of deliver, he covered it up. And we have some pretty good evidence as to why he did that.
Maybe it's because he almost survived his assassination attempt. He survived his assassination attempt.
Yeah, two of them.
Two of them. And maybe they put him in a room and said, here's how it's going to go.
Mm-hmm.
So I